Let's build up shading and depth on this Grisaille portrait of King David dancing when the Ark of the Covenant comes into Jerusalem. And this is something you can use on your own painting. I'm doing this in the traditional Renaissance style. I mean, not precisely in that way, but as much as possible. And this is my reference photo. This is my painting. Just capturing that exuberance and joy on his face and seeing him as he's dancing, coming into Jerusalem. If you want to do narrative paintings like this with an inspirational message, I invite you to watch over my shoulder as I paint. I'd like to show you a few techniques. We're going to add some more depth, more drama to this painting. We've begun to colorize it. Initially, we had a Grisaille, which was a monochromatic underpainting. Basically, just three different tones: our dark tones, our highlights, and then the mid-tone that was underneath. And I've begun to put some color glazes on top. And basically just ultramarine blue, some organic orange and naphthalene red, bit of burnt sienna to develop the skin tones and separate them from the clothing and just give that a different appearance. Added some raw umber dark and a bit of ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson to darken the beard and the shadows inside the temple. So we're building this out and just want to show you more how we develop the painting. So I'm going to open up with a word of prayer and we'll get started. Father, I ask you to bless this painting. Help me to show the artists watching how to use this technique in their own paintings of doing a Grisaille monochromatic underpainting, how to develop this sense of exuberance, joy in their artwork if that's what they're desiring to do, being able to depict biblical scenes, inspirational scenes, capturing joy in the painting. I pray that I'd be able to demonstrate that, give them ideas on their own paintings, how they can do it. Bless this painting session in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so I have my palette here, excuse me, and got all my colors laid out: raw umber dark, burnt sienna, raw sienna, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, naphthalene red, organic orange, Indian yellow, and titanium white. And so I'm going to begin by darkening a few areas and then we'll work out of that. So let's take a small round brush and we'll use some raw umber dark and then dip it into the matte medium that I have on my palette. And I like that. A little bit of ultramarine blue as well, which just kind of shifts the color a little bit darker, because if you just use the raw umber dark, it's very brown and it's too strong, too overpowering. So when you add the ultramarine blue, it's kind of a complementary color to that, and it shifts it then to something a little less vibrant on the brown spectrum and gets it more to like a Payne's gray or a black. But you can vary the amount of blue you're adding and then create your own kind of black, your own kind of hue. And then you add a little bit of alizarin crimson and that mitigates the green that's present in the painting and can shift it a little bit warmer. So you have a lot of control with your blacks using these three colors. But let's go ahead with this, and I'll demonstrate this color, what it looks like on my white card, and you can see that. Get a good idea for kind of how dark it is. Again, mixing matte medium. If you're new to this, it's acrylic paint without the pigment. It's just clear polymer resin, and it allows you to glaze and to create these beautiful effects like in the times of the old masters. Well, we're going to go ahead and just add some glazes to the beard. Darken that area. We're going to darken the interior of the mouth. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see this better. We're also going to darken the eyes a little bit, eyebrows. So when you're placing these glazes, it's very important to not just, layer up exactly where you place the previous glaze, but you want to, go darker in certain spots. And then with that, you can develop some shading. So for example, I can choose to place this next glaze on his eyebrows just in the middle area and not all the way to the edge. And then when I do that, it actually develops a sense of shading because I have a previous layer there. And when I double up a layer in the glazing technique, it gets darker wherever the layer is doubled up. So in this way, we can develop a ton of shading and depth just by the strategic placement of these glazes. I'm going to go ahead and darken a little bit here on this side. These nasolabial folds create so much of the expression of the smile that we're going for in his face. Really getting that look of joy being captured here. And that tells the story in this painting. And I'm thinking about possibility, maybe I'll do a separate video on this just to float the idea out there. But I've been praying about this a lot, and I've been thinking about, I guess I am kind of floating the idea out, but I'll probably still do a separate video. But I've been thinking about, praying about, just really focusing in on Christian narrative paintings, or some people call it prophetic art, and just really focusing on, paintings of prayer, paintings of biblical scenes, and paintings expressing ideas in the Bible that maybe aren't even necessarily biblical scenes. Like we think of Bible characters like King David and Abraham and Moses, and but like maybe just expressing these ideas of redemption and forgiveness and grace and mercy and joy and things we find in the Bible. I really have a desire to do that, and I'm praying about focusing more on that than just portraiture in general. So throwing that idea out there, and if you're watching this video, and just listening in, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that idea. You would like to share in the comments below, but I'll probably do a second video just devoted to that topic entirely, to float this idea out there. I really want to focus on what God has called me to do and what gives me the most joy. And this is what gives me a lot of joy in painting, is painting things like this. So love to hear your thoughts. Go ahead and share something in the comments if you would like me to focus more on this kind of work here, because that would be really encouraging to me to know, if that's a step in the right direction. God gives us ideas and desires, but they can often be encouraged by other people. And so anyway, please do share with me in the comments below if you like that idea of me doing more of this kind of work. Paintings of prayer, paintings of inspiration, biblical themes, expressive paintings like this, paintings that convey a message. And, I'd love then to share it with you, what I'm working on, and teach you to do the same thing as well, if that's your interest. Anyway, I'm adding some more shading to the left side of his hair here. So we're going into the sideburns, because it should be just a little bit darker right here by this corner. Okay, so as it goes in, we can see it in the reference photo. If we look at it, it's just a little bit darker right there. We really want to just darken this corner here above the ear, and then this area down there, and that can give us a lot of contrast. Because see, it's super cool when you get these dark areas here below the ear, dark area here, and then it's lighter on the edge. That just really conveys that idea of the light shining there. I love that. It also balances out the dark tonal values on the other side of his face too. Just the strategic placement of these glazes make a big difference. And then the beard, you know, getting darker on the right-hand side, corresponding with our light coming from the left. Just so important. Now, his mustache, I haven't made it super prominent right here because the light's shining on it, but if I don't add some texture to it, it's going to look as if, you know, he just has almost a clean-shaven face on that part, and that he has just a beard but really no mustache. We do need to give him a little bit of texture there to basically show that he does in fact have a mustache. We'll darken though this right hand side because that's more in shadow. I'm going to let that glaze go up a little higher than it did before the first time, just to develop a little bit of gradation in there. Okay, and now let's add the same glaze. We don't want to only darken one part of the painting. We want to make sure we darken everything consistently. So all the dark values should be anywhere where there should be a dark value based on the reference photo, we ought to put it into the painting. So now that we darken that face, we need to also darken a few spots on the clothing. And I'm looking at the reference photo and I see above his sash here, a little bit darker right there. And then right by the armpits, a little bit darker in a few areas. Not everywhere though, but just a few key areas. So we want to make sure we get that. We're going to also darken, let's see, a couple of these lines here on the clothing. And when you darken a few of these spots, then it really causes you to push the rest of the painting further along, because you'll need to then kind of darken your midtones to balance out these shadows, and everything just starts advancing more when you really push some of your darkest darks to what they should be. So this crease right in here, that should get darker too. So I'm really pushing that as well. And let's see, maybe we should hit this area up here, the temple structure, take a smaller flat brush and just kind of fill that area in. Go to the palette and we'll just take this glaze we've got. I do like to put a lot of paint on the brush. Just see how I load that up. Sometimes I even load it up with more than that. Now let's go ahead and apply this to the areas between the pillars, which are, you know, in pretty heavy shadow. Now when you're applying these glazes, they do get a little bit grainy, you know, a little bit streaky sometimes. So don't worry about that, because you'll be going over it with some layers on top to smooth things out. All right. Let's go ahead and apply. Apply more here. And we'll bring this down further. There we go. And let's darken it a little bit below here. So using short choppy brush strokes and just basically pushing the paint into the weave of the canvas and then smoothing it out with longer strokes at the end. Now let's not neglect this little area right behind him here. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to just add a little bit of a glaze in the sash right here. Darken it a bit on the underside. And then we'll just really quickly look and see if there's any other opportunities to darken a few spots, like maybe right here by the other armpit. That could get a little darker. Just a little bit of shading up here. Again, I'm letting the reference photo be my guide. Looking at the spots that need to be done. Basing it on that. And then this area here could get a little darker too. Ran out of paint, so I'm just going to mix up some more. So you can see again the process: raw umber dark, ultramarine blue, and a bit of alizarin crimson. Now I have it wiped off here. I don't have to actually draw it from the paint on the side. Just pull it right in from the mixing area. Let's just add a little more ultramarine blue. And this color is a little different. So if I show it to you on the white card, see the difference in temperature between this and the previous one? This has a little more blue in the mix, but I think it'll still work. So we're going to place that in these areas here. So like right here in the stonework, it should work well for that particular color with the background. Up here behind his head, that could get a little bit darker, and I think the color needs to be warmer, so let's add a little more raw umber dark to that. We'll just kind of warm it up, and some alizarin crimson. Now, you see this on the white card, notice how it's warmer in tone than this one. Add a little more brown. So you can really customize your own black or your own Payne's gray with this. Now let's go ahead and apply this right behind his head, cutting around his hair, leaving that highlight. Doesn't matter, you know, if we paint over it a little bit, because we'll go back on top with an opaque detail brush at the end and refine it. But here we're just going to blend this out. Get a little bit of shading in there. And let's just go ahead and mix something with almost pure raw umber dark. Then I'll just grab a little bit of alizarin crimson. I want a slightly warmer color here. Now look at this one on the white card, even warmer yet. And we're going to add that just to the left here. Get a little bit of texture in these bricks. A little bit of shading. So you want to make sure that your darker colors are a little bit cooler in tone than the mid-tone they're going on top of. You have to play around with it a little bit. If they're too cool, it won't match. If they're too warm, it looks really odd, because shadows are rarely warmer in tone than whatever object they're on top of. They're usually a cooler color. So again, it does take some playing around to get the right tint. You don't have to get it perfect, because value is more important than color. It just has to be close. And then with the glazing technique, you always have another opportunity to adjust and to refine it if you need to. So you can always, you know, shift the color and warm it up if it's too cool, or cool it down if it's too warm. That's the beauty of the glazing technique. You don't have to get it all right in one layer. So here you can use light brush pressure to really do kind of a dry brushing technique and develop a lot of shading. Use a controlled brush stroke as you get in towards these edges, and then kind of lift away, and then you keep the preciseness of the edge of your subject, but you develop some beautiful shading and gradation on the perimeter edges. I love it. So I'm going to stop off here. I think with this we've developed some more contrast, and then the next step will be to develop more of the mid-tone, and I'll be introducing more color. So I plan on sharing more either in a real-time video like this or some time-lapse videos as well. But thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, of course, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe. All the interaction here on the YouTube channel pushes that further in the algorithm, helps this video to be seen by more people, and I really appreciate that. So please do share the video, and also check out more of my tips and tutorials at realisticacrylic.com, where I'd love to share my love of painting, especially with the glazing technique, with you there. All right, well, God bless you. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.